Hey guys, welcome back to Trinity Farms. Got another one here for you today. This one here, a little bit out of the ordinary of the homesteading side, but we've got another truck that we needed to use here on the farm, and just something to poke around, something to haul back more auction finds if we need more than one truck, my big primary. But we needed some stuff to just do some, I almost like clunking around in, but something that don't have to worry about beating my good truck up. So this truck here, believe it or not, took one of my trailers to get some extra insurance put on it from a project that I need to show everybody. We'll be going through that before too long. It's a pretty neat deal, and hopefully might be able to start doing some more of those in the future, but we'll kind of let that one out on another episode. But this one here, the insurance agent, we started talking, and he said, well, I've got a truck I need to get rid of. And I was like, what is it? And you can see behind me, I'm not a Ford guy, but I've been looking for a 3/4 ton. Yeah, it's a 2001. It's a good work truck, clear coat and stuff, needs a little addressing there, but it's got brand new BF Goodwrench TAs on it. They don't have hardly any miles at all. Truck's got the typical bed rust in it here, eat up pretty bad, but this is going to have a flatbed in the future put on here. So like I said, it's just his son had used it for a mowing business. It's by no means a beauty queen, but it'll do exactly what we need to do. The frame's good on it. It does have a little bit of a transmission leak. Gonna have to address that. And it's got a intake manifold leaking on it. I've already got the parts to put that back together, and a transmission pan gasket and filter kit. Try to do that, but probably end up putting some towing mirrors on it. That one there's busted, but the interior is just basic old work truck. Needs a set of seat covers thrown on it. Needs to be cleaned up some, but it is the 3rd door truck. So all in all, drove it home and made it here with no issues. So we're just going to start doing a little bit of work on this, and I'm going to pull it around and get started on the intake gaskets. And while I got it there, end up taking and jacking the front end up, checking the ball joints and stuff like that. Supposedly just had new calipers put on it and brakes. So we're going to take and try to get started on it. Looks like a Ford. Goodness. Here it is, guys. Triton 5.4. You see it's got a new battery in it. Coolant level is a little bit low, but it's leaking. You can see maybe. There we go. Right in there. These intake manifolds leak right here between the plastic and the aluminum. The early models just had plastic in there. They did update them, but they are not anything good. And it's leaking on this side. You can see that. It's got the green antifreeze down there. Leaking down. The valley's got antifreeze in it down there. One of the things you got to look out on these ignition coils set right here, right behind the thermostat housing. What happens is it leaks like that right there, and there's a channel that runs along the side of the intake manifold up in here, and it will run right down the side of those coil packs. Coil packs are not really got a good seal on them. What it'll do, it'll start filling up those spark plug holes underneath those coil packs and start shorting out and arcing. You'll have a dead miss. So if you have one of these trucks with a 5.4, the most common thing is something getting down in there, water or whatever, Which it also will do if that gasket right up in here is gone across your cowl area. Rainwater will run right down in there, get on top of the intake manifold, run down, get in the spark plug holes, and you'll have a dead mess. This is one of Ford's greater ideas that they're still doing today. I was working on a 6.2 today at work, same thing. Working on a 3.5 EcoBoost, same thing. Water running right down in there. No matter what they do to try to seal them up, Ford engineers cannot be smart enough to figure out how to stop up a hole, keep stuff from running around in it. But as you can probably see, I'm pretty much a diehard GM guy and have been. This is the only, this is the second Ford I've ever owned. But hopefully this one will turn into be a good truck. They just have their quirks. We've got these 5.4s in our trucks at work, and we've got some of them that are right at 300,000 miles, and they're just run hard every day. Stop and go, and they're holding together just fine. So main thing is your service work, how they've been kept up. So this one here hadn't really been monkeyed with. Everything seemed to be pretty well stock. It just needed some work done to it, probably more than what they wanted to do. We got a really good deal on the truck, but like I said, we do have work we have to do to it. These intake manifolds, the good ones that you get, are made by Dorman. Dorman tries to take and redo all the factory screw ups, and they're taking and doing a pretty good job of it. So the Dorman intake for this truck, I get a discount on parts through the shop and stuff, but there were I think around 180 for the new intake manifold. And I got a new transmission pan filter kit set, the good ones, metal, with rubber embedded instead of the rubber ones. I hate those things, they're hard to get sealed up right. But I think I paid around 40-45 bucks for that. So we got a little bit of money put in here, oil change, air filter, just do some basic maintenance on it, then start checking the whole truck over. The brakes were supposedly just redone not too long ago. It has a I haven't crawled under it, but obviously it's got a brake pedal. It's got a little bit of a fade on it. He told me one of the caliper bolts he couldn't get sealed up. One of the things that I usually do is kind of annul the copper rings that go on the calipers, and that seems to you heat them up with a torch a little bit, and whenever you go to tighten them down, it just helps a little bit with the compression and sealing. So I'm going to take and get started on this thing, get some coolant draining, and hopefully have this thing tore down pretty quickly. Alright guys, just took and opened up the drain on the radiator. You can see it's right there, the end where it's coming out there. Got it in a drain pan. Also wanted to let you listen to this. You can hear the actual suction of the antifreeze draining out. That's how bad those intake gaskets are. So I drove the truck home and it never did get hot. I'm hoping everything's okay with this. They would have had to been going through a tremendous amount of antifreeze. So we're going to take and start tearing this thing down and try to make a pretty quick job of this. Let's go ahead and get started. Alright guys, I pulled this out. You can see how bad this is here. This cracked and worn up. You have a problem with running. This goes to the PCV valve. These were notorious about sucking in. Here's your PCV valve over here. You can see that there. Focus in on that. Oh, I didn't get that to focus, but anyway, you can see that hole in there. This stuff, look at that. They get oil soaked, start sucking in on themselves, and you got a vacuum leak on the back of your motor. So we're going to have to put that on too. That takes everything off the back of the alternator. Next thing we need to do that I highly recommend is down in the areas around your coil packs. The intakes collect a lot of stuff, and they will actually let debris fall down in the coil if you take the coils out and then look at your intake manifold. I've had rocks fall down in before, and it's a nightmare trying to get them back out. But I'm going to take and do something a little bit different on this one right now because I don't have my air compressor fired up yet. I'm going to go ahead and unhook the coils, unhook the injectors, unhook the fuel lines back here at the back. Fuel lines that are on here is going to require these tools here. You'll have to take and usually your two smallest ones here, get the fuel lines off back here in the very back, unhook every one of the injectors. I'm going to go ahead and probably before I do that too, take the connections off the coil packs. These coil packs are not factory. Somebody's put them all on. We bought a kit. One of the weird things, this is a dormant intake manifold, so it has been replaced down the line. So it leaking the way it is very uncommon. They're usually pretty good. So this might be like a first gen that got put on several years ago or something. It finally just went bad too. But we're going to take all this off, and then once we do that, we can pull the whole intake off here. Got to take the upper radiator hose off and the heater hose cord over here also, and we'll get them off. Then the intake will come off pretty quickly after that. Alright guys, we got the other side taken off, all the bolts out of the coils. Now we're going to take the fuel lines off back here. We'll give it another little squirt. If you've got a can of penetrating fluid or something like that, it will not come out anymore. Just take and dent the can up, smash it on something, squeeze it, do whatever you can, put some dents in it. It'll up that pressure in there and allow you to take and use that stuff again instead of just throwing the can away. Got these clips I was talking about. Basically, you snap that over the fuel line, push it up in there, release the spring, and then you can push it forward. It's a fairly simple process, but sometimes they get dirty, and you gotta work with them a little bit. Definitely help using a couple hands back here. So what I'm going to do is try to take and get on there with a pair of pliers, loosen them up a little bit, get them rotating. Alright, they're moving a little bit. See if I can get up in here. If you ever wonder why you're billed so much at the repair shop, it's because people are doing this kind of stuff all day. Alright. Got that one out. And got that one out. Kind of lay them back here at the back. Don't need those clips anymore. The tools. Go ahead and put them back. Toolbox, and then there's some 10mm headed bolts that run around the perimeter of the intake, and there's some right up here in the thermostat housing. You take those out, and let me get back squared up here, folks. Take those bolts out, and then you can lift the intake manifold off. So I'm going to go ahead and get started on those. Alright, got all the bolts out of it, and everything's loose. The fuel lines are off. Lines are out of the way. I rotated the coils on this thing about a quarter of a turn. I'm going to try to keep them in there if I can. It's going to take probably a little wiggling to get this thing out of here, but we'll go ahead and try to lift it up. There you have it. Show you what I was talking about in here. There is water ports on the back of these heads. You can see right in there. But there's nothing that flows through the rear. Right up here at the front, where that gasket is still at, is where these things usually start leaking at. And as you can see here, here's what happens. You get a misfire. This is a coil right there. You see that? See that bubbling? What happens is that port right there starts leaking, and it runs down just where you can see all this stuff at. And it gets crud buildup on some engines. You'll even have rocks and stuff get in here. Whenever you go to pull that coil out, you can see there, you go to pull that coil out, stuff will fall right down in the spark plug holes. Here's a good example right here. Here's this side. You get it going down through here, it does the same thing. And what do we got there? Whirligig off of a tree. This one back here's got a little crud in it too. So if I would have not blown this stuff out, that right there could have fell right down in that spark plug hole. You can see here all of that stuff just piles up around them. Very, very, very bad design by Ford. But as you can see, the intake valley will fill up with antifreeze, and it'll run out of this corner right here at the back, right down the back of the transmission. So anyway, I've only been working on this for probably, I don't know, I had to go get tools and everything, maybe 45 minutes, got it tore apart. Kind of messing around with that stuff, but it doesn't take too long if you've got everything out. My problem is whenever I get done with a job, I never put my tools back up like I should, so I'm digging for stuff all the time. So anyway, I'm gonna take and get this cleaned up. Right, I took and just took a razor blade, went across the top, got the muck out of there real quick along the sides. Wanted to show you guys what I was kind of talking about here. If you have a misfire on these motors, look at that right there. Look how long that stuff's been in there. That right there will cause a misfire really bad, which is surprising because whenever I drove this truck home, it really wasn't doing anything. It was running pretty good. So what you do with those is you'll take some brake cleaner or something and clean that all up. Put some dielectric grease back around the bottom. I even sometimes put a little bit around the top, help for extra sealing in case water does get down there, because rainwater, whatever, will get in there and cause an issue. But that's that cylinder there. Let's see what this one looks like. You know, that one pulled the whole top off. You see that one there don't look too awful bad, but there was stuff down in the bottom. You can see that. So we're going to take and blow all this stuff out and get the plug holes all cleaned up. I'm going to probably, while I'm here and it's easy to do, go ahead and pull a plug out and see what it looks like. But we'll go ahead and pull all 8 of those out and get everything cleaned up, get ready to go back on with that new intake. Alright, as you can see, got all those cleaned up. Spark plug holes are not got any antifreeze anymore in it. They were an absolute mess. Ended up blowing everything out, putting some brake cleaner down in there, letting them soak for a while, spraying them back out, putting some back in, spraying it out. Got everything pretty well out. This thing had been leaking for a long time. The grunge that was on everything was crazy. So I'm hoping that we got a truck here that's going to be pretty good for us, not going to have any problems. I'm hoping there's nothing wrong with it. Like I said, I drove it home, didn't have any issues, overheating, ran really good, surprisingly. I would have never guessed that it was running like that with all those plug holes full of antifreeze. So got that done. The valley down there, I'm going to take and go ahead and sop that stuff up, get it out of there. But cleaned all the coil packs out, got all the junk off of them, and I actually pulled the #1 spark plug out there, and it's got some NGK iridiums in it. It doesn't look like they're very old at all, so they had a lot of life. So I just stuck them back in. So I'm going to sop up that mess and get the new intake manifold ready to go in. Alright, here's the new intake manifold. Got this guy open. See what we got in here. We have a box inside a box. Why not save the planet here a little bit. Alright, there it is. New thermostat, new hardware kit, seals, new manifold. It's got water ports in it. Pretty much everything here you need to put back together here. Take this and set it over to the side. I'm going to pull this out of the box. And it's kind of hard to get out of there. Alright, there we go. Set this up here real easy. As you can see, This is a Dorman intake. If you ever go back, it tells you the gasket numbers go back with. It's got a torque spec. Lift it up here. There's your new gaskets. All right in there. So anyway, I'm gonna take and sit this back down on top of the box here, all nice and gentle, and we're going to pull the fuel rail. These are your fuel injectors right here. I'm gonna take and spray them off real quick, get them cleaned up, and we'll get them put on a new one. All right, I'm gonna get to it. All right, guys, I got the fuel rail out. You can see they sit, all your fuel injectors sit right there. They bolt in those holes right there on each side, basically. Here's the fuel injectors. Before you take and see how dirty those are, before you put them back in, take and clean them all off. Get that to focus a little bit. Clean them things all off, some brake cleaner, and wipe them down real good. Put a little grease on them. This grease, this intake actually had a little bit. You can see some of the red right there, but I'm gonna put a little bit more on there, put them on the O-ring so you don't tear anything going back in, and seal them back up. You just push them down in there, put the new bolts in, and it'll be ready to go. I'm gonna go ahead and do it now. All right, as you can see, we got those on. The main bodies of them are rusted up pretty good, but the O-rings and stuff got a little grease on them. Got them put up in there. One of the things whenever you're putting these on, these brackets right here are slotted. Always hold down, push those in, make sure you don't want any vacuum leaks around those injectors right there. It could cause that right there, but this very back injector is clocked differently than the rest because of the connector. It has to come in a different angle because of the fuel lines. So just kind of get everything kind of back in a ballpark vicinity of where they were, and you can go from there. Once you get it on, they'll move very easily. They'll just twist in there. But anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and put this up here. We got the pretty good majority. That stuff down there is just absolute muck. I'm not gonna bother getting that stuff out of there. It's been there for God knows how long. I don't really have any place to put it right now, dispose of it properly, so it's just gonna go in there and dry up. Once the motor starts running over time, it'll be just fine. It'll turn into crust and dust. So we'll take and get this set back up, get this intake put on, and get this thing buttoned up, hopefully before the day's over here. Alright, we got the intake back on it. Bolts are torqued down 18 foot-pounds. Just went in a crisscross pattern. A lot of people don't even torque these things. If you work on stuff enough, you kind of get the torque feel. Just from doing it for years. I did get the torque wrench out for this. Just wanted to double check my work. I went ahead and tightened them down and then put the torque wrench on. I barely cracked them to move them at all, and they popped. So the torque wrench, I mean, not the bolts. But anyway, got the new thermostat in, got all that cleaned up. I'm going to probably wait until tomorrow. All right, guys, it's the next day. Try to finish this up. It's later on in the day. Had to do a bunch of running this morning, and just getting back around to getting this going. After I get everything filled back up, I'm also going to take and do a transmission service on it. It's got a transmission leak. I'm going to try to get under there and kind of figure out exactly what it is. Looks like the drain plug is leaking. So taking in the end of these plugs, or not plugs, the end of these coils, putting a little bit of dielectric grease in there so they'll take and come off easier the next time, which is hopefully a long time from now. Like I said, yesterday I pulled a couple plugs out, and they were NGK iridiums. They looked really good, like they hadn't been in there very long at all. So we shouldn't have to address any of that. As I said before, I work on these every day in our trucks, and I'll tell you what, you don't realize how good you've got it until you're doing something like this. Leaning over the front end of the truck doing this. Our big trucks are E450 chassis that are made by a chassis body manufacturer, Utilimaster and Morgan Olson, and you've got a doghouse basically over the whole front right here. Back towards the rear of the motor is all open. You can get to everything. Only thing you really kind of struggle with is your first two up here. You got to reach in, but for the most part you can get to everything, and it is so easy to work on. These here are not so much. guys, got the intake boot put on, coolant temperature sensor, got some thread sealant on that. Everything up top's buttoned up, all the hoses are back on, and getting ready to put some antifreeze in it, check for leaks, check the oil, and fire the motor up. I don't see anything underneath the truck. The level's going to drop a little bit. It wasn't completely full after I got back here. I'm going to take and just kind of loosely put this on so whenever I fire the truck up, it's not going to take and spew stuff all over the place right off the bat. So, check the oil one more time. It is full. It doesn't appear to be too awful old since it had its last oil change. So we're going to take and fire this up and cycle it through. Back in there. Well, we're gonna let it sit here and warm up and see how it goes. Alright guys, I've had this thing running for about 10 minutes. Everything so far seems just fine. I haven't found any leaks. It's running great, revs up good. We'll take and spin it around here and show you the temp gauge. You can see she's got a lot of miles on her, 283. Temp gauge is real good, oil pressure, charging well, airbag lights on. I think the clock spring's bad. No check engine light. I didn't have that on whenever I drove it home either, so it's doing pretty good. It's got a PCV valve over there humming. Needs a new one of those, but other than that, everything seems to be fine. I'm gonna take and close the hood on it and take it down the road real quick. Well guys, just got back, took it on a test drive, pretty good one, and stopped by a buddy's house, looked it all over again, everything looks good. Made some Ford jokes between amongst of us, and I got ribbed pretty good about it. We're definitely not Ford folks around here, but it did good. Couldn't be happier right now with it, but we're gonna get it up in the air, check the ball joints over, brakes, things like that. And one of the things I did find it has to be addressed, which is a common issue on a Ford, which I thought they were practically all fixed by now, was the the switch on the master cylinder has to deal with your cruise control. This one here is melted completely in two, like they all did. And a lot of these trucks and the cars actually caught on fire, and some of them burned houses down because they were inside the garages. I actually know a guy that his was like that, burnt the side of the house off. So luckily this one didn't go that far. You can see what smoke's been flying off the edge of it. But, whenever I initially bought it, the guy thought he had a caliper leaking a little bit from where he put calipers on. You get a little brake pedal feed. Well, digging around a while ago, it's that switch. It's weeping a little brake fluid when you push it out. So that's the little bit of brake fade that's going on. So I need to get a new switch for that. Anyway, enough of that. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit on this episode here. We're gonna probably doing a little bit more work to this truck. I'd like to get a flatbed either bought or built for it, and try to raise this front end up a little bit. It's sagging pretty good, which is a typical deal. Just the rake on the truck. I like to get it up a little bit higher in the front, and probably gonna put airbags on the back to help out for when you're pulling the trailers and stuff. So I have a little bit more on this truck, but thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. If you got any comments, any Ford jokes, or if you're a Ford guy, let us have it. You're all just out to have fun. Manufacturers all have their problems, but thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next episode.